Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this free webinar hosted by Wisconsin Cheesemakers Association, covering all things World Championship Cheese Contest. I'm Grace Atherton, WCMA's Communications Director, and I'm so glad to have you all with us today. Thank you for joining us. First, before we start, a couple of housekeeping notes. Please make sure your mic is muted and your video is off for now to avoid interruptions during the webinar. You can submit questions anytime during our session in the chat, and we'll do our best to address them during our Q&A. I also want to note that our Q&A will be fully open, drop-in style, so at that time, when we get to that spot in the webinar, please do feel free to unmute, come right in and jump in with your questions. I'll let you know when we get to that point. But until then, please keep those mics muted and the video off to make sure we don't have any interruptions. We will share a recording of this webinar along with a list of resources and helpful contact information with all those who registered later this week. So please watch for that in your email inbox from me. And with that, we will take a quick look at our agenda for today. We're going to start with an overview of the contest. We're going to talk through entry rules, key deadlines, all of those details you'll find in the entry kit. Next, we'll walk you through the process of that our team of expert contest judges uses to score each entry. And then finally, after that 30-minute program, we'll open it up to your questions during, like I said, an open drop-in style Q&A session. So our two speakers today will be on the call until 2 p.m. Central to field your questions. Please feel free to drop in and out at your convenience at that point. We want this to be easily accessible for you, you're busy people. So that is open to you until 2 p.m. Central. So without further ado, let's jump in. And just as a quick reminder, we will share a link to this recording, including the full Q&A and helpful resources and contacts later this week with all of you. We're going to start with a contest overview from WCMA's contest director, Kirsten Strohmeyer. I will turn it over to Kirsten. Take it away.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm happy to have you here and happy to answer any questions you guys have after we do a little 101 on the World Contest. So WCMA is, we have hosted an annual contest since the 1890s, and the intent then is similar to now. The goal is to create friendly competition amongst peers while providing valuable feedback for cheesemakers to improve and then make the best quality products. Each year we host either the World Championship Cheese Contest or the U.S. Championship Cheese Contest. Our next edition is our 2026 World Championship Cheese Contest. This will be held March 3rd, 4th, and 5th in Madison, Wisconsin. So we'll go over some details for the contest, and all of that information is also available in the contest entry kit online at our website, worldchampioncheese.org. Start with some key dates. So this year we have an early entry rate discount of $15 less per entry if they're submitted by December 12th. So they're $80 per entry now through December 12th. After that, entries are $95 each, and then the final entry deadline date is Friday, January 30th, 2026. So the entry receiving deadline, when you need to send your products to us, that deadline is Wednesday, February 18th. And all entries need to arrive that day at Holland Cold Storage in Kaukauna, Wisconsin. So note, I'll talk about that a little later, but note that this is a new shipping address than in previous years. So fresh products, we do allow fresh products to arrive the week later on February 25th. And that fresh products mean any product that needs to be made as close to the contest judging as possible. So for example, this can include like fresh mozzarella or yogurt, anything that needs, that has a shorter shelf life needs to be made closer to the judging. And then the contest judging will take place at the Monona Terrace in Madison, Wisconsin. And the preliminary rounds of judging will take place on the 3rd and the 4th. And then our final rounds of judging and our champion announcement will live stream that on Thursday, March 5th. Then the contest awards banquet will take place the evening of Thursday, April 16th. This is the final day of Cheese Expo in Milwaukee. So who can enter? Every maker of cheese, butter, yogurt, sour cream, dry dairy ingredients manufactured in the world is eligible to compete. We also allow second-party marketers, processors, or retailers. You can enter your co-packed products with approval from the original manufacturer. So we'll also go over some specifics on the products. Entries must be natural or processed dairy products. Any raw milk product must be held for 60 days before contest evaluation. A product can only be entered in one class. The same product cannot be entered in multiple classes, so each product has one best fitting class. Each class also has different numbers of how many entries you can submit from your plant or different varieties. So all of that is in the entry kit. And also, we'll get to this later, but if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to help you walk through those. So also the chief judge reserves the right to move an entry to the most appropriate class if necessary. We have these class limits. Second parties are allowed to enter up to 2 entries in each class, with the exception of the demonstration classes where they can enter those directly. And then each entry must be entered in the name of the person, team, or group directly involved in making the product. We want the cheesemaker to receive the credit for their winning product. Products may be sent with or without their normal branded packaging and labels. The technical scoring process is objective, so labels and brands, they don't interfere. That's not taken into account. So each entry also must be sent in its original manufactured form, unless otherwise noted in the entry kit. But really the bottom line is like, do not cut your cheese, unless there's some exception, but as a majority, we want to see the full originally manufactured form of the product because our judges take the full piece into the evaluation. So send in whole wheels or blocks, however it's originally manufactured. So some of those exceptions that are in the contest entry kit are for cheeses that are cut during manufacture, large form cheeses over 66 pounds, smoked cheeses when cut before smoking, similar to like cheeses coated or submersed in a flavor or condiment. That has to be, if you have a cheese and you cut it, and then on all sides of that cheese has a flavoring or a condiment, then that is considered that final manufactured product. So, and then also any processed or converted cheeses that enter the demonstration classes, of course, those can be cut because they have to be to enter those. For small size products, we do ask for multiple products to be sent to equal a minimum total of 2 pounds. This is to ensure that there's enough product for evaluation should it continue to additional rounds of judging in the contest. We want to make sure that if you get a first place and it goes to the champion round, that all of the judges are able to try the cheese. Entries with a trier hole will be disqualified, so you can't try your cheese before you send it in, unless you're sending in a full 200-pound wheel of Swiss or Emmentaler. Also of note, any samples with excessive mites may be deemed unsafe for consumption and will be removed from the contest at the discretion of the chief judge. This year we have 150 classes, and these are divided into classifications. We have, categories for cows, sheep, goat, mixed milk. We also have classes for butter, cultured products, which consists of yogurt and new to the world contest, sour cream, and dairy-based dips. And we have our dry dairy ingredients classes and demonstration classes, which consist of those converted products like sliced, shredded, crumbled, and snack cheeses. Entries in the contest must be paid in full at the time of entry submission. Entries canceled prior to January 30th can receive a 50% refund of the entry fee paid. Any entries canceled by the entrant after January 30th will not receive a refund of entry fees. The entrants are responsible for shipping costs, where we don't offer a refund for paid entries that fail to arrive at the contest site. And how to enter now. So My Entries is the exclusive entry worksite for the championship cheese contest. This is our own unique system that we've designed specifically to fit our contest, so specifically for our entrants and our judging. So My Entries is your personal secure account for entering online. You receive your product scores and your score sheets, and then also the shipping product ID tags are also in your My Entries account. So next I'll offer some insight and tips on entering using My Entries. It's kind of a small screenshot here of your My Entries dashboard. Here's where you'll access all those features like previous score sheets, your account information, and your orders. The score and order information saves in your account. So if you have a change in the person managing your account, your company account, you can just change the email address and password to the new person so that data can stay accessible for the new person managing that. If you need help accessing anything in your account, you can always reach out to me, and I can assist and I can help change any information that you need. So to enter a new product, you'll see this green button, the Get Started button. So you'll click that, and then I have some screenshots of a blank entry for reference and some tips about entering those. So you'll see there's a drop down for the class, and then you'll see this product brand name field, and you'll write the name of the product. So you can write the brand name if you want, you don't have to. For example, say that the Wisconsin Cheesemakers Association, the brand of our cheese is WCCC. So we'll type WCCC cheddar in this field. The judges don't see that field, so they don't see the brand information. This is only used like on the website or in like the results pages or in the Cheese Expo program where we post our results. So for marketing purposes, if you do well, I would recommend you use the brand name as again, the judges won't see that. So next is the description. That is what the judges see. So explain to the judges what they need to know when they're evaluating your product. This, again, should not have any brand information. Don't give away, the name of your cheese, your company. This really is all about your cheese. So if you're making, you know, like I have here as an example, white cheddar wheel aged for 2 years. Tell the judge how old it is. If there's anything special about it, like if it's made with grass-fed milk or if it's aged in a certain place, tell them all the things they need to know about your cheese so they can take that into account and really understand kind of what you're doing, what you're going for. This is especially important in those open classes. So that's the description. Then the maker individual, again, we want the team that's directly involved in making that cheese. So this also would be online or in the results. The judges don't see that. And then, of course, my company is Wisconsin Cheesemakers Association. And that company information can be separate from, the company information from your account. So say if you have a different brand or, multiple companies, that can, that adjusts there. So here's another screenshot of the entry form. Here you'll enter the total pieces and the total weight. And remember, unless like in the exceptions in the entry kit, all these cheeses must be sent in their originally manufactured form and at least 2 pounds. So again, if your product is smaller than 2 pounds, send multiple pieces to reach that minimum total that we need. And these additional fields here help us with the information about your product. So that manufacture date helps us to know how old it is, and if the judges want to know again the age, if that helps with some of the moisture or the aging. Having that manufacture date is very helpful, and also depending on the class that it needs to go in, there are some age requirements for certain classes. So the manufacture date, and you can edit that after submission. So you could enter now, and if you don't know which lot you're choosing, you can edit that after you send in your product. So when you're going through grading, you can go back in your My Entries account and adjust that manufacture date, and then also that lot information and that moisture percentage. Again, that's just additional information to help our judges both making sure that we have the cheese in the right class and also just additional information for our judges as they're evaluating your cheese. And then country of manufacturer, and then notes for your personal use. So that last field here are just notes for you. I don't see that. No one sees that. So that field is for you to have any notes like internally of this cheese was, X, or someone picked this one. I think sometimes companies might have a team of people that help select the cheeses and say, Joe picked this one. And then that helps to, on your side, discern which cheese is which. And we don't see those. So then each contest entry must be carefully packaged. So they should arrive to our new partner in warehousing, Holland Cold Storage in Kaukauna, Wisconsin. They need to arrive by February 18th, 2026. And then fresh products can arrive through February 25th. And again, new address. We'll be receiving all of our entries here, and then this is also where our volunteers will sort all of these entries as well. So from your My Entries account on the dashboard, you'll select Print Your Shipping Tags to get a PDF of your entry ID tags and then a packing list. So you can see here that helps with the address, There are there's two entry ID numbers there, one to go on the outside of the box, one to go on the inside. So then packing your entries, this is very important to note. Each cheese should be packed in its own individual box. This ensures safe handling, it helps us to receive and sort at the warehouse, and then it minimizes any issues concerning, identification, and it truly ensures that cheese is handled properly. So it's safety for your product, making sure that it's held in its own container. But so you can send boxes, you can have each cheese in its own individual box, and you can combine them into larger containers together for shipping. But again, each cheese its own individual box. So there's those two parts of that tag, one on the outside, one on the inside. And again, Wisconsin Cheesemakers Association, we partner with Holland Cold Storage, and we also partner with Wisconsin Aging Grading Cheese. They help us receive, hold, sort, and organize these contest entries for judging. All of these will arrive in Kaukauna, and then we will have wonderful volunteers who help us receive, sort, stack, and label all these entries to get them ready for the contest judging. Our volunteers are key to our operation of a successful event. And in December, we'll send out an email to all of our interested volunteers with a form to sign up for volunteerships. We need volunteers to help at the warehouse with entry receiving and sorting in February. We also ask for volunteers to help assist with the dry dairy ingredient sample preparation before the contest. And then, of course, we ask for volunteers to assist with the logistics and product handling for judges at the contest in Madison, March 3 through 5. So next, we'll give a quick overview of the judging process. Our guest presenter and longtime contest judge and newly added Assistant Chief Judge Jill Allen. We'll go into more detail in just a few minutes. So the first round of judging, that first round of contest judging takes place on March 3rd and 4th. Entries are evaluated by a team of 2 expert technical judges from across the nation. So we'll have about 58 judges in total, and then each class has 2 judges that evaluate it. And each judge gives a score sheet for each entry, and then those scores are averaged. So from those averages, a gold, silver, and bronze medal are awarded to the 3 highest scoring entries in each class. The championship round of judging will take place on March 5th, and our expert panel of judges evaluate all the eligible gold medal cheeses a second time to determine the top 20 finalists that will move on to the final round of judging. And then during that final round, scores from all the judges are averaged, and the cheese that earns the highest average score from all the judges is named the world champion. And then the next 2 highest scores are awarded first and second runner-up. And then we will announce the 2026 World Champion cheese that afternoon during a live-streamed event. Then we have the contest awards banquet during Cheese Expo. That's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That'll be held at the Baird Center. That awards banquet is on April 16th. Winners will have their moment on the stage for recognition, where they'll receive elegant handmade plaques with the World Championship Cheese Contest medallion. The first place winners in each class are given gold medal plaques that are electroplated in 24 karat gold. And silver and bronze medal plaques are also awarded to second and third place winners in each of those classes. Then our trophies, they are handcrafted, and those are presented to the top 3 in the contest. So winners of a bronze, silver, or gold medal gain access to the official trademarked World Championship Cheese Contest logo. This logo and guidelines for its use are provided after the contest to be incorporated in your packaging and marketing materials. This is a recognized symbol of quality and craftsmanship across the country. This gold contest medallion is a great way to show potential customers that you're committed to providing high quality, delicious products. So that concludes my portion of the contest overview. If you have questions about specific products or entry rules, please feel free to ask at the end of the webinar during that Q&A portion. Also, feel free to send me an email or call with your questions. I'm always happy to help, always happy to talk about cheese. So next, we'll take a deeper dive into how our expert judges evaluate thousands of contest entries during the competition, and then that's some of that criteria that they use to score each product. So here to explain more is our newest Assistant Chief Judge of the contest, Jill Allen. Jill Allen is Director of Product Excellence for Tillamook. She's an outstanding member of our expert judging teams. We're happy to have her as one of our newest contest leadership wearing those red hats. So she'll join that group of assistant chief judges and our chief judge, Jim Miller. Welcome, Jill.
Thank you, Kirsten. It is such an honor to be the new assistant chief judge for the championship cheese contest. It's also an honor to share a little bit about what it's like being on the judging side of the World Championship Cheese Contest. Judging at the World Championship Cheese Contest is both a privilege and a responsibility, and it relies on industry-trained judges to standardize the evaluation and, above all, respect the craft of the cheesemaker. Every wheel, wedge, and block that crosses the judging table represents years of dedication, from the cows to the milk to the make to the care and aging. Every cheese begins with a journey, and in this class, it's grouped with other cheese families, milk type, and age categories. The contest scoring employs a 100-point system of scoring of deductions for defects, and they are taken from an initial score of 100 points. Deductions are tallied and subtracted from 100 to determine a final score. Each cheese is to be judged on its own merits for that variety, not as compared to another cheese. Generally, scores are around 95 to 99.99, and this scoring system will have cheeses typically not come below a 95, but it's not unusual. But however, keep in mind that these entries that are considered are contest cheeses, so our judges make sure that they are represented for that final score that the maker has, the best that maker has to offer. The process for judging. This process starts with trained industry judges, a combination of technical experts, cheesemakers, cheese graders, and sensory scientists. Each are selected for their ability to evaluate the cheese with accuracy and consistency. Before judging even begins, all judges participate in a calibration session, aligning our interpretation of attributes for visual, aroma, flavor, and texture. This ensures that judging is accurate amongst each judge and each judging team. Each cheese is evaluated blindly. There is no brand names on the cheeses, no creamery names, no country flags, only entry numbers. It's a complete level playing field. And it's not about the preference of the judge. It's about how well the cheese represents its class and how precisely it is made and aged. The judge's scorecard reviews each cheese very carefully. We look at appearance for defects, the makeup, quality and safety defects. We look at the surface, the rind, the smear development for any defects. We look at the color attributes and any defects. And then we look at the body and texture defects. And then overall, the flavor defects, if there is any. First round of judging will have the judges paired into teams. Two of each team will be assigned to a class of cheese or butter, and now our cultured products. Judges are to complete their own score sheets and should not confer or comment with the other judge while they are judging. The two scores for each cheese entry are averaged, and the final score for each entry is the average score. So that will be your final score, is the average from the two judges. The championship round is from great to the greatest. By the time the cheese reaches the championship round, it's already the best in its class. Each one has earned a perfect or near perfect technical score this far. Now the focus shifts from eliminating defects to finding distinction, the cheese that stands out for its sheer character and craftsmanship. When we're judging this final round, the atmosphere in the championship round is electric, but it is very quiet. Every sample has already proven its precision, and now it's about the heart and soul of the product. You're looking for the moment of perfection, when that flavor blooms and the texture just melts just right, and the cheese leaves an impression that lingers. So when you see a gold medal or that world championship title, know that behind it was a process built on precision, passion, and the shared love of truly great cheese. And I thank you, and I can't wait to see you at the competition for World Championship Cheese.
Thank you for walking us through those details, Jill. We appreciate your time. And before we go and drop into our Q&A session, we'll share a couple of quick resources for you to jot down. So you can find more information on the World Championship Cheese Contest, including all key deadlines and entry details we talked about today, and at worldchampioncheese.org. And that entry kit online will give you all those details. If you have general questions about the contest that weren't answered on the website, please email us at contest@wischeesemakers.org. For more specific questions, you can reach out to me. My email should be shared after this webinar. It's kstrumminger@wischeesemakers.org, or you can give me a phone call, and that number on this slide is my direct line. So at this time, we'll switch over into our open drop-in Q&A session. We have a couple pre-submitted questions, so we'll go through those first. And also note, if you need to drop off, feel free. We'll send out an email in the next couple days with a full recording of the session, including Q&A, plus some helpful resources and contacts. So if you want to stick around, ask questions, this is open time for you here. So Jill and I will be here until 2 p.m. Central Time. So this is your time to ask all contest questions. Feel free to unmute or drop them in the chat after these pre-submitted questions, or put that in the chat. So here's some of the questions we received in advance. Can I come watch the judging and the final announcement? We will have that as a live streamed event. So we will share the details so you can watch that announcement live. That'll be on our website and our Facebook, and that's how you can see the final judging announcement. We will have the first 2 days open to the public for a few hours on that Tuesday and Wednesday of the judging. So if you're looking to make the trip to see what the contest is all about, watch some of the judges as they're sampling and evaluating cheeses. We will have open hours for people to attend that way as well. So next, can I get a refund if I decide not to send in my entry? If you decide to not send your entry and would like a refund before the final entry deadline of January 30th, you can receive a 50% refund. If you decide after the entry deadline that you're not going to send your entry, we do not offer refunds after that entry deadline. So we're already planning to receive that and all of the details that go into that. So no refunds after the entry deadline. And how can I sign up to volunteer? So we have a list of previous volunteers, any interested volunteers that we will send out an email to with a form to sign up. We will send that out probably the first week of December to that list of people. So if you are interested in volunteering, please reach out to me and we'll make sure that you're on that list to receive that email. I will say the spots to volunteer at the contest in Madison fill up very quickly. So when we send that email out, I would act fast if you're looking to volunteer those days in Madison. But we always want more volunteers at the warehouse too. So we are happy to take additional volunteers for those sorting weeks as well. And so now this is your time to ask any and all contest questions. So feel free to unmute or drop them in the chat. Anybody wants to be the first person to submit a question? We are here at the ready. And if you don't have time to stay, it won't hurt our feelings if you have to leave the webinar right now, but and stick around to see if there's additional questions. I see one. It says, "Is it bad to tape the inside label on the cheese?" I think this really just depends on the cheese itself. I don't think it's bad. Most cheeses have that, protective covering on it. I would say that, we see that on a lot of, we'll see it on like 40-pound blocks, or we'll see it on wheels that have some sort of coating on it. As long as the tape wouldn't affect the cheese itself, I think that that's fine. It sometimes can be a benefit because then we know that cheese is that product and just helpful in transit. So it's not necessary and it's not bad. It's your preference. I see another one. Can your branding be left on the cheese that you enter? Yes, so if you have a cheese and your label is a part of that, we don't have any rules saying that you cannot send anything with your original branding. The way that our technical scoring is, that doesn't go into the score sheet. So the regular packaging and label can stay on. We want the best representation of your cheese, and many of your cheeses already have some sort of labeling or packaging, and we don't want you to have to adjust what you want to send in order to send it. I don't know, Jill, if you have anything to add on that either.
Yes, and most of the time the number is placed over the top when the judge's assistants bring the cheeses to the table. I can tell you that the judges will look at the packaging and the film itself, so it's important to make sure that we don't have excessive free serum or cheese particles in your seal. That is really important. And because if you do that, you will have that deducted. But I can tell you that if your brand is present, the judges ignore that because we are looking at the packaging itself and the cheese itself. It has nothing to do with the brand. And the judges selected know that it is utmost important to judge the product separate from whatever the brand is on the product.
And if I could jump in here real briefly, I think that's maybe why, Kirsten, that description field is so important in your entry, right? Because your judges can't make any determination about what they're about to evaluate based on the brand or the packaging or anything like that. So that description field is really what they're relying on to tell them, what am I looking at? What was this maker going for, right?
Yep.
And if I may add, absolutely, because cheese, as we know, the basic ingredients of milk, culture, salt, enzymes, and then the aging process, there's so many different facets that can change within each one of those. And when the judges presented the cheese, we don't know what has occurred to have this product come to our table at this time. We may know it's a cheddar, we may know it's a bloomy style, but other than that, we won't know unless you tell us.
Some other questions here. Are cheese curds included in the fresh product receiving deadline? So cheese curds, we did a trial last year and we're going to trial this again this year. Kind of a special delivery deadline that we'll reach out to everybody that entered cheese curds last year and then also anyone who does enter this year. So we'll have cheese curds, we'll allow them to be delivered or sent directly to the contest judging in Madison at the Pound Terrace. So last year we did a pilot during the US contest and allowed for cheese to arrive on the Monday and Tuesday of that contest week. And we'll do the same again this year, with the caveat being that anything sent or delivered, no cheese curd can be made past Monday, March 2nd. So if you make them on March 2nd, you can deliver them in person or overnight them to arrive at the Monona Terrace on Tuesday. Then Wednesday, we will do our cheese curd class judging. So they have a special rule, and I will send more information directly to these cheese curd manufacturers so everybody has that information. Then I see another question here. Can I enter my cheese in the contest if I cut the wheel prior to smoking it? Yes. So smoked cheeses and cheeses that are coated or submersed in a flavor or condiment can be entered, if they're cut before the smoking or that condiment. So part of that manufacture process, you're cutting your cheese in order to get the smoke flavor in a smaller piece. And that smoke part is the last step of that manufacture process for that product. So cheeses can be entered if they are cut prior to the smoking process. You want to see, evidence of it being smoked on all sides of it, or evidence of that condiment or flavoring on all sides of the product. Let's see, can you recall if many leave their branding on their entries or very few? Honestly, it's really, it depends. Depends on the classes or the products. I would say that I couldn't honestly even tell you a number of how many do or don't. I think sometimes it might be personal preference of the cheesemaker that they might not want that information on there. Some can't help it because that's just their standard packaging and how that comes. So that is it depends on the class. I would say that sometimes your products are also obvious by the shape of it. So if the judge might already just know because they know your cheeses, it's kind of the same thing. So it's really your call on if you want to leave the regular packaging on it or your standard packaging or not. What are the categories judged on, and what do they differ from products like cheese versus butter or powder entry? Um, so we do have different, so our judges are selected and assigned to different classes according to like their expertise. So we do have different score sheets for like cheese versus butter versus dry dairy. They each have their own attributes according to what the product is. Like Swiss has its own score sheet as well. Jill, you want to add anything to that? Like, what are the categories judged on, or
Yes, so
just
as you just
differences?
stated, different products could potentially have different scoring sheets, but the basic sensory properties are always going to be the same. So the appearance, we're going to be looking for a product that's uniform. Like I mentioned earlier, you're not going to see any uh, particulates in your film. You're not going to find any non-GMO items as well, such as hair or brush bristles within the packaging, and we have seen that in the past. So really look over your cheese before you send it. Coloration, we want to make sure that whatever type of cheese it is, that the coloration is uniform. So if it's a natto-based cheese, we want to make sure that we are not seeing any mottling. Makeup and quality safety defects follows under that GMP of that product, making sure that it is safe. Because when your consumers go to buy your product on the store shelf and they've never tried your product before, the first thing that they always do is buy with their eyes. So really look over that product. It should look beautiful. The surface rind, so is it a smear ripened cheese? Is it bloomy rind cheese? We really want to make sure that the product doesn't have any defects such as too much ammoniated or a dead rind or dents in your product. It always comes down to, okay, well, does this little dent mean anything when I send it into competition? Not necessarily, but if you have product that's been stacked on top of other product, like pallet rungs that's caused indentations, that would be considered a major defect. Why? Because we're always looking for defects to tell us a story, how that cheese is either going to end up on the store shelf or how it's going to be converted further down the line. So if your cheese has a major dent in it, can it possibly go to converter and not have excessive trim, for instance? So there's always a reason in our judging why we're looking for certain defects. And we're telling a story so that we can tell you so that you can improve your process as well if we find anything. We're also looking at the body and texture. So we're a lot of times either using a knife or a trier to extract your product. We will all be extracting the product the exact same way. So the pair of judges, if we're using a cheese trier, we will pull the plugging spot very close to one another. We want to make sure that we're getting the exact same product, but we're pulling our own product so that we can feel how that product comes off the trier, how it smells, how it looks. That trier is representing conversion, how it's going to go down the line, if it's too sticky, pasty, if it's too dry, too crumbly for that cheese's particular age, for an example. We're also going to be then tasting the product, smelling the product, and what is that cheese telling us for its age, for its style. So we are looking for defects in that product. Those are going to be the basic sensory properties. And then on top of that, what I also mentioned was packaging as well, making sure it doesn't have any huffingness to it, any leakers. That's very important.
I see. Is it required to put the label inside the box with the cheese wheel? Our cheese is boxed prior to arrival to our warehouse in the States. Um, that's a good question. I would say that if you're not able to put that inside label in with the cheese, it is absolutely imperative that it's very obvious on the outside of that individual cheese, individual box. that it is that entry number. So that inside label is helpful for us, but I understand that if in some of your processes or shipping, that just might not be doable. As long as it's at least on the outside so we know what it is. The thing we want to avoid is any confusion or misunderstanding of what that cheese is, because the last thing we want to do is say your cheese is a different cheese that we don't know, we don't want to mix up entry numbers. That's the main goal of those numbers. Can the score sheets be shared so we can understand what is being graded? So I can share some of the attributes or some of the defects that are listed in those score sheets. They are quite broad, especially for cheese. So we have one that is all natural cheese. So the natural cheese score sheet has a plethora of defects that you could possibly have. We have some score sheets that are specific to certain classes, but our natural cheese score sheet has just about every defect you could think of for different products. So that comes down to our judges selecting certain defects that pertain to that product or that, that style of cheese or that milk. It's really that kind of our judges are experts, so their knowledge in those defects. So certain classes may have more depending on the judge. But yes, I can share some of those. Do these parameters also apply for processed cheese? Are there some variances? So yeah, we do have a separate score sheet for processed cheese that has different defects that match more along the process for making processed cheese. So that is one that has a separate score sheet because it is separate from our natural cheese score sheet where you're looking for different things.
These are all fantastic questions. We're about halfway through our open Q&A period, so just a reminder to everyone, we will send out a link to this full recording, including all of this Q&A afterward to everyone who registered for the webinar. We have Jill and Kirsten here for about 15 more minutes until 2 p.m. Central, so please feel free to unmute and throw a question out there, drop them in the chat, whatever works best for you.
Look through and take a look at some of our score sheets here to try to pull them up to show a rough example of some of our score sheets. Our scoring is all on, our judges all score on iPads. So all of the score sheets are digital online. So I'll pull those up and I can share. Give me a moment so I can pull those up here. So this is a PDF example of what our judges see, like if they're scoring pasteurized process cheese. So these are some of the defects. They're quite, I mean, there's a lot that are similar that you might see in some cheeses, but then you have some that might be a little bit more specific to a pasteurized process.
So Kirsten, just for the less initiated, thinking with kind of my non-cheese expert brain, it seems like what you're saying, right, is that this is the score sheet. This doesn't necessarily mean that every one of these fields will be filled with a defect by a judge, right? Is that what you're saying, depending on the product?
Yeah. Yep. There are more more defects here than our judges would possibly ever. Typically on a cheese, you'll see a couple defects listed. These are just all the possible scenarios and outcomes that could be in a certain cheese. Like for cottage cheese, we have one and it's just slightly different. Yeah, yogurt, a couple different options there. And again, our judges are experts in these products, so they know the defects that match the manufacture process of the cheese. So if there are certain defects that can come out in whatever way that you're making your product, you know those as the cheesemaker, and those are more likely like the attribute defects that the judges will notice that are specific to that product. Butter also has its own as well.
One question I know I have heard in the past is when and how will we get our feedback? How does that work,
So,
Kirsten? Can you talk through that a little bit?
Since everything is done through our My Entries site, at the end of each judging day, we will release the scores for all the classes, all the cheeses judged that day. So we get half of the contest judged on day one, on that Tuesday of judging. And at the very end of the day, we will submit and we'll release all those score sheets. So there will be half of the results from the contest listed online at the very end of the day. And then you can see if those classes have been judged. You had an entry in there, you'll see your score sheet and any notes. And then same for the next day on Wednesday at the very end of the day, we will release all the results. So you'll see all the class results and then your score sheets will be in your account as well. Any other questions on classes, or if you have questions on what you want to enter or shipping, anything?
I'll chime in again. Well, another question that I've heard, for those that don't know, I work a lot with our media around the contest, helping reporters understand what all of this is and how they can better tell your stories of cheese making and craft and passion. And one of the things they always ask me is how do you be a judge? What is a judge's background like? How do you get to this spot? So Jill, I'm wondering if you can give some color commentary on that from a judge's perspective. Like, here's how I got to this point, just so that folks can better understand who actually is the one evaluating their cheese. You know, we talk about it being this international team of experts. These are scientists, these are R&D folks, quality folks, things like that. But if you could just give a little bit of info on your background, I think that would help people understand that a little better.
I would love to. My experience in the dairy industry started at a very young age. I was born and raised in Tillamook County on the beautiful Pacific Coast in Oregon. When I was attending high school, I milked cows. I worked at a few local dairies, so I have done everything from feeding cows to calves, you name it. Then when I went to university at Oregon State University, I also worked at the Oregon State University Dairy. Been involved in many dairy clubs and other aspects of the dairy industry through my school years. I continued my education once I was hired at Tillamook as their sensory lab technician. I moved my way up within the business. I've been with Tillamook about 25 years now, working with all of our dairy products from ice cream, yogurt, butter, and cheese. Today, I lead a team of cheese and sensory scientists for Tillamook. It's a passion of mine. Cheese is something that I love. I am a turophile, so I spend a lot of free time also just reading about cheese. But a few years ago, I'd say about 14, 15 years ago, I decided to get my Wisconsin Cheesemakers Grader's license because I wanted to see what the rest of the industry was doing so that I could bring that back to my team in Tillamook, Oregon. I started to judge then with the WCMA about 13, 14 years ago now. And I have since then wanted to learn even more about cheese judging. And so I've judged contests now all over the world through the World Cheese Awards in Italy, uh, Wales, and this year in Switzerland. I'll be there at the World Cheese Awards in Switzerland. I've judged for the Australian Grand Dairy Awards and Wisconsin Cheesemakers for the US and the World Championship. So it's been a great honor. And then also the International Cheese and Dairy Awards that's held every year in England. So having an opportunity to learn about cheese that's not just from your country or your local area, but from the world has really helped me to understand the practices, the different aging methods, and what each country looks for particularly in their cheese type. I get a lot of questions of, well, we have this type of cheese in this country, you're making it in your country, it is slightly different. How do you judge that cheese? And really, it comes down to our scorecards. So, looking for those defects. It is universal that if you have a particular defect in your type of cheese, we know how to identify it and then have it ranked in its scoring system. A great example would be a note of bitterness in a product that you don't want to see. We want to have a product that is clean and represents that type of cheese, no matter where you're consuming it in the world. So it was a great opportunity for me to continue to judge around the world so that I understood how different types are created and made within different countries.
Great experience with a lot of different cheeses, and that's a huge asset to have as a contest judge, and something that we absolutely look for is not just experience in your own plant or with your own cheeses, or it, our judges tend to have experience with many different types. So we do have, people who work in academia that are researchers or people that are R&D, or we also have a lot of cheese graders that are judges. So people will often ask, like, what is the on-ramp, or how do I get to be a judge? And my number one comment is volunteer at the contest.
Mhm.
So learn and understand what it is that we do at the contest. That helps immensely for both the future judge, and just it helps us with somebody who has prior knowledge of the contest, and also some appreciation for how we do things, or what we do, why we do it. Um, but we also, our selection, we have our contest leadership team that evaluates a whole different criteria of judges and backgrounds. And we're looking for diversity in products and locations. We want judges from all over, like our world contest. Half of our judges will be from other countries. And then our US judges, we have from all over the United States. And so that goes into some of that selection as well. And, you know, again, experience judging cheese, also experience with cheese often. So if you're evaluating cheese every day, your palate is trained, and it's ready to judge contest cheese and a lot in a day. It's also important. And yeah, so I think getting involved, we have forms and criteria, and also for each year's judges selection, what it also can come down to is what judges, what experts we have in what areas. So, you know, we need judges that can do butter. We need some that can do pasteurized process. We need some that can do some cave age specialties, smear ripened, and we don't expect our judges to be able to do all of them. So it's a little bit of a Tetris game of what judges can be paired together, or work on the same cheeses together, and you know, their experience. So it's a bit of a puzzle each year, and we also have a certain percentages of how many veteran judges or new judges or brand new judges. So trying to have a good balance between uh, experience, how many years they've been judging with us, and where they're from. I see a question here. Different cheeses seem to develop different flavor attributes based on demographics. Swiss flavor profiles, for example, can vary a lot in the US and in Europe. Because of that, what is considered good can often be open to personal preferences. What guidelines are used to calibrate the judges on what a particular cheese should taste like given the many variations? Are we able to access the desirable traits of a specific cheese will be judged on in regards to flavor? Jill, if you want to take that from your experience
Yes.
judging.
Yes, and Swiss cheese, cheddar cheeses can be produced anywhere in the world. But depending on where they're from, they're going to have a different terrophile perception of from that terroir. So that cheese could have different flavor attributes from the different type of cattle, the different breed, or the different sheep or the different goats, what they're eating, the time of the year, the different fat to protein levels that come in. Are you skimming the fat off? Are you not standardizing your milk? Are you using a different brining method? There's so many different pieces that go in to change that final flavor profile of the cheese you're producing. We are looking for those defects in that product. So a Swiss cheese, yes, you might have different Alpage notes coming through. However, is that cheese supposed to have eyes? How are those eyes set in that product? Is it blind? Are there defects? Is it cracking? Is there different attributes that are telling us that this cheese was mishandled or not aged properly? So when that first round that we discussed earlier, we are looking for those defects, not personal preference on the flavor attributes. Now, in the final round, when you go from great to greatness, there is going to be a little bit of personal preference because all of these cheeses are going to be the winners in their class. They're going to be the best of the best. But what we're looking for in that final round is what is that flavor and texture and that body of that cheese telling us about the story of this cheese? Is it something that really stands out and shines and really comes across as that clear winner against all of its other best winning cheeses in their categories? So is the flavor really blooming? Cheese is living and it changes day to day. And that is also something that I recommend we didn't talk about today, Kirsten, is if your category says you can enter a max of 4 entries, I recommend entering all 4 entries, maybe even at slightly different ages within that category, because that cheese, we don't know when it's going to be at that prime position, that day of judging, because flavor attributes do slightly change. Is the flavor flat? Is it dull? Are we not getting those flavor notes to really come through? So those are going to be defects that are looked for at that first round. So yes, certain types of cheeses can be made anywhere in the world, but there's so many different outliers that go into producing that cheese that will create slightly different nuances, which makes your cheese an individual within the world of cheese. So please, if your flavor profile is meant to be, don't create a different cheese for the judges, because if you win, you want to be able to sell that product on the marketplace as is and be very proud of your cheese. We're looking for those defects really in this cheese contest at the beginning.
And I'll also add that there, are nuances between every cheese that's going to enter in a class. You have mild cheddar, but every single one of those cheddars are going to be slightly different because they all, made similarly, but they're all going to have a different flavor. So the judges are looking at that cheese alone. They're not comparing, oh, did this one have this flavor or did this have, no, they're looking at that cheese alone on its own merit. So our judges know the manufacturer, know the process, and that's where your descriptions come in helpful as well. That helps them have a little bit of a background on what they're looking at if you have an original, recipe or something maybe different from a standard, like a USDA grading standard. But so that's kind of our last question, but I do see how many judges are there in each class. There are 2 judges assigned to each class. Each judge has a score sheet. Those are averaged for that cheese's final score. So each cheese is an individual in the contest. They're just categorized in classes, so they are evaluated among like products. And if anybody has any other questions, please feel free to email me, call me. Always happy to help and find the right answer for you.
Thank you, Kirsten. That's the perfect segue. We have already reached 2 o'clock Central Time, so we're going to close things out for now. But as Kirsten mentioned, you can always reach out with other questions. Please also feel free to dive into our website, worldchampioncheese.org. You'll find the complete official entry kit there, which contains all of the details we talked about today. But we are always available if you need help as well. Feel free to contact anytime. Thank you so much for joining us today for this free webinar. Thank you to Jill for joining as our featured guest judge speaker today. We appreciate her time and her expertise so much. And we are so happy that she was able to join us today. Thank you all. That's all the time we have for now, but please watch for an email from me, excuse me, in the next couple of days with the recording of this webinar and some helpful resources and contact info. Thank you again for joining us. We hope you have a great afternoon or rest of your day wherever you are in the world. Bye-bye.